You ready? Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call to order the License and Variance meeting for November the 12th, 2014. The time is about 10:04 a.m. My name is Roy Acree. I'm the fire chief here in the city of Smyrna. To my left is Scott Stokes, the director of public works. To his left is David Lee, the chief of police. Immediately in front of David are Terry Graham, our city clerk, and Heather Korn, our deputy city clerk. First item on the agenda is V14-038, public hearing variance request to allow rear setback reduction from 20 to 4 feet at a 0.17 acre tract, land lot 752, located at 2150 Oakdale Estates Court. Applicant Walter Robideau. Is that correct? Could you step forward, please, sir? For the sake of the minutes and the record, could you please state your name and your address in the microphone, please?
Walter Robideau, 2150 Oakdale Estates Court.
Okay, you might have to pull that just a little bit closer. The minutes are recorded. Okay, thank you. Okay, sir, could you just briefly describe your variance request for us?
Well, I have a deck in the backyard, and the backyard is sloped from west to east. At about, 6 degrees, I guess, so it's pretty steep, and we haven't been able to do much with it since we've lived there. And I'd like to add a couple other decks to what I've got at different levels, and also put in a hot tub. And the additions would infringe on a 20-foot variance that I have back, a 20-foot spacing I'm supposed to have.
Okay. And we may or may not have questions for you in just a minute, but I'm going to call up city staff now. Community development.
Joey Stobbs, Planner 1 with Community Development. The applicant's requesting a rear setback reduction from 20 feet to 4 feet at 2150 Oakdale Estates Court. The zoning is R80 conditional, has a 20-foot rear setback, and as the applicant's explained, he is proposing to build a deck, a multi-tiered deck that will encroach 16 feet into the rear setback, so 4 feet from the rear property line. The proposal is that there's basically two new decks, one to the south, one to the west, and they will be, the one to the south will be 3 foot lower than the existing deck, and then the one to the west will be 4 feet lower than the 4 feet lower from this.
Yes.
4 feet lower from the existing deck. And the subject property is bounded by a 6-foot masonry wall on Oakdale Road, and a 6-foot privacy fence around the perimeter. We feel that this is a less intensive alternative than to just grading the site and making it level. And we do agree that there are topographical issues that does cause a hardship. So, by right he could grade the site with a permit, but we would prefer the alternative he's proposed of doing this deck, and it should have minimal impact on the neighbors because of the drop in grade from the existing deck. So adjacent properties have been notified and signage has been posted. We recommended approval with two conditions. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevation submitted with the variance application. And 2, The applicant shall demonstrate compliance with Section 801, maximum lot coverage by buildings and other structures, including pavement, shall not exceed 45% in the RED zoning district. And the applicant provided that information to me yesterday, that it will be less than the 45% lot coverage. So,
Okay, so before we get into any questions, is it true that, sir, that you're familiar with these two conditions as set forth by community development?
Yes.
And you
Yes, I am aware of that.
Okay, and you're committed to complying with those two conditions?
That's correct.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Joey, what kind of verification was given on the 45% lot coverage?
just a calculation from the applicant on the existing structures and existing structures and proposed improvements.
Well, what's the percentage?
40%, 40.5%.
Okay, thanks.
And that was based off the proposed site plan?
Correct.
Is that right? Okay. Any other questions for the applicant or for staff? This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that would like to speak either for or against item 2A, please step forward now. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve variance request V14. Just got shadows out here. V14-038. Allow the rear setback reduction from 20 feet to 4 feet, 0.17 acres, land lot 752, 2150, Oakdale Estates Court. Applicants Walter Robidoux, with the stipulation that the variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevation submitted with the variance application, and 2, that the applicant shall demonstrate compliance with Section 801, maximum lot coverage by buildings and other structures, including pavement, shall not exceed the 45% as required in the RAD zoning district.
I second that motion.
We have a motion to approve and second. I'll call for the vote. The motion to approve is passed 3-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is V14-039, public hearing variance request to allow pictorial image on front of building and commercial wording and pictorial image on the side of a building at a 0.65 acre land lot 528 located at 3773 South Cobb Drive. Applicant Joanne Schwartz. Is the applicant present? Could you step forward, please? Again, for the record, to state your name.
Joanne Schwartz.
Okay, Ms. Schwartz, could you tell us a little bit about your variance request today?
Yes, this is for a dog daycare and boarding facility that has been in existence since 2001 under a different name before I purchased. The dog bones that are on the front of the building facing South Cobb Drive were existing upon my purchase. The original owner, Lori Knupp, was granted approval to paint those dog bones on the front of the building. She had since sold that to another individual Bar Partners Limited in 2010. The dog bones were agreed to stay, I would imagine, because they were not removed when I purchased the location in 2012, the business in 2012. I went and asked for approved colors to paint on the building, and I was given a swatch of approved colors. So the dog bones were existing probably 8 years prior to my purchase. I went ahead and added dog paws and the words doggy daycare, boarding, and grooming on the building facing the parking lot. The problem I have is with the grade of South Cobb Drive heading north, no one could see the building, basically, until you are on top of it. And heading south, there is a a lot of trees that block any visual signage for my building. I decided to come to Smyrna. I had 2 locations to choose from to expand my business. I have another location in Atlanta, and I love the growth opportunity in Smyrna. So I chose this location. I was not aware of any complaint from any of my neighbors. I spoke verbally with them and also sent a certified letter making them aware of this hearing as well. There was no complaints from the neighbor from the shopping center. Although I am separate from the shopping center, there were no complaints from the shopping center owners themselves, Wade Ford across the street or the church next to me. Apparently it was an anonymous complaint that had made a complaint. No name was given, and they are the ones who are complaining about the pictorial and the wording. So with the dog bones being present 8 years prior to me purchasing the business, I went ahead and tried to add other material to make it a better visual for any customers that come. And I actually had several customers say they had no idea that location was even there, even though it was in existence since 2001, until they actually saw the dog bones on the front of the building and the dog paws. I'm sorry, the dog paws, not the dog bones, the dog paws on the side of the building. And I think it's a very intricate part of my business to remain there. So hopefully I could stay in business. I think it's sort of a challenge to have anybody realize that business is there.
Okay. Any questions right now for the applicant? Okay, we'll hear from staff. Joey?
The applicant's requesting a variance to allow a pictorial image on the front of the building and commercial wording and pictorial image on the side of the building. It's a somewhat complicated issue because there's several conflicts with the zoning code that would prohibit us recommending approval for this request. Our sign code allows a 40 square foot wall sign on any part of the building that fronts a public road, and a 32 square foot freestanding sign. So the sign ordinance describes pictorial images and commercial text as signage. So it really is above the allowable square footage, nor should there be signage on the side that is facing the parking lot.
But is it, and I apologize if I'm interrupting, is the issue that's before us today a variance for the newly added words doggy daycare, boarding, grooming, along with the what looks like to me 6 painted paws on what I would call the face of the building? Is that the issue that's before us?
Yeah, well, both sides are in part of this request. The bones on the front of the building that has the wall sign were there existing, and they were painted as the new owner took ownership.
Repainted?
Repainted.
Right. So it was your testimony that the bones on the one side of the building have existed for some number of years.
Right.
And when you added, if I'm hearing this right, when you added the paws and the text on the other side of the building, the bones themselves were repainted, touched up. Okay. All right.
And whether that is a legal non-conforming issue or not, the sign ordinance stipulates that any change of ownership or business name loses any non-conforming signage and has to be removed. So a new ownership would disallow the applicant from keeping the images on the front, and we don't have the discretion to allow the other signage on the interior front side. So, it is above our discretion to recommend approval for this request, and based on precedent and what the sign ordinance gives us the ability to do, we recommend a denial, because all of these issues and the signage regulations apply uniformly across the city for all businesses, for freestanding businesses. 40 square foot wall sign for any part of the building that faces a public road, and a 32 square foot monument sign.
Okay.
There's been no, typically there's been very little approval of sign variances in the past. This request I've never seen before, really. So there's no precedent at all for this.
Okay.
But as she mentioned, adjacent properties have been notified. We posted the signage. We recommend a denial. And if the License and Variance Board recommends denial, and she has the ability to appeal to mayor and council.
Right.
So.
Are there any questions for staff or the applicant?
The existing sign on the building, which faces South Cobb, what's the square footage of it?
I don't know, to be honest. I really don't know. I don't know if we would have a record of that far back, but
Well, so you're saying the sign ordinance, if any new occupant or owner purchases a piece of property and they have existing signage on the property, it will immediately have to come to compliance. There's no, if the building's been vacant for 6 months, a year, whatever, there's none of that. It's change of ownership, and every bit of signage has to comply with our ordinance.
yeah, the only unique thing about that, the owner hasn't changed that sign, right? The face on that sign.
I did change the face on it to my business name.
Okay, so we did
That was a business
issue
change.
a permit for that.
Right, there was a name change of the business.
Do you remember what size sign you bought?
It was an existing can sign, so whatever the base can is,
So-
I just changed the face. 5x6 or 4x6.
Was a permit issued for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Could I just?
Yes, please.
Another issue I have is that the building is a pea gravel stucco, if you will, sandstone. To be honest, I would, in order to change that, I'm not really sure what that would entail. I know it would be very costly. I think that would actually not work with any pressure washing. That whole area would probably have to be refaced. And again, I do not know the cost involved with that.
Well, Well, and I'd just like to say, and I guess maybe even more on a personal note, I hope that you understand, regardless of the motion and how this goes one way or the other, it certainly is not our intent or anybody on city staff's intent or the elected body to ever create any type of difficulty for businesses or residents or businesses. But I do know that the council's expectation historically on the sign ordinance specifically has been for strict adherence. I know that they spent many hours within the last 5 years revamping that ordinance, and their expectation is for strict adherence to it for an overall citywide look and feel. And I believe that was their intent. So regardless of the decision today, we certainly, we want to encourage business and entrepreneurship that you represent, and we want to help you in any way that we can. So I just wanted to say that. Were there any other comments that you have?
The only other comment is that, again, that was, the bones were up probably, I would say, 8 years prior to me purchasing location. So the owners before me were not asked to remove that. And then the additional I put up were probably there a little over a year and 2 months before the anonymous complaint came in. So there was really no issue until there was someone anonymous.
Until there was an issue.
Correct. Which was from none of my neighbors.
Yeah.
So
have you tried to, are the previous owners still around?
Yes.
Have you tried, prior to this meeting, have you tried to ask them if they did obtain a permit for the bones?
She said she was given approval through the city. Her name is Lori Knupp. She said she was given approval through the city. I do not know if it was permitting, but she said she was given approval.
And this was around 2001?
She originally opened the business in 2001, and it was probably in 2004 or 5.
Which would have been prior to the revamping of the sign ordinance.
Yeah, it could.
Also.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
sure of the exact date. I would have to get back with her and ask her the exact date.
Yeah. Any other questions for the applicant?
I have a question for staff.
Staff, Joey?
I know you haven't. I don't think you were here in 2004 or whatever, but I would imagine, because of some of my history, that a permit, we don't give verbals, we give permits for signage.
Current staff does. I don't think any of us were here in 2004 to know what was procedurally done, if it was verbal or otherwise.
Okay, thanks.
This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that would like to speak for or against this agenda item, step forward. State your name, please.
Thank you. My name is Joyce Hunter, and I own and operate Hunter's Pet Grooming at 2821 South Cobb Drive. Although I'm not the anonymous complaint, I did make an inquiry with Officer Hardy about 2 weeks ago because I asked him about making some changes to the outside of my business. And one of the things I wanted to do is what they did at their place, and he immediately told me, no, you can't do that. You have to apply for a variance. And so this pictorial image and wording has been up for the past 3 years, not 8 years. I'm very familiar with Lori, and I'm also familiar with the young lady that took the business after Lori. We worked very well together. There was nothing up until about 3 years ago, and I drive by it every day. I've been in Smyrna and operating in Smyrna for 20 years. I was first at 560 Windy Hill Road. Then we purchased the property where we are now on South Cobb Drive. So in order to get to work, I got to pass her location. So I know it was only there 3 years ago, and I was totally shocked that they allow her to do what I asked to do. In 2004, when we purchased our property, I went to community development, who was awesome staff. They helped me when I did the construction of my business. Without them, I wouldn't be in business. They totally support small business, totally. I can't express that enough. But after completion of the construction of our business, the last thing we had to do was paint. Well, we had our signage out front, and of course that goes with your square footage of your, square footage of your building. But I didn't have the money to do the monument sign because we spent all of our money in construction. So I wanted to do paw prints and bubbles. And of course, they said, Ms. Hunter, you can't do that. You're only allowed to do. And I said, but I can't afford this monument sign. It costs almost $4,000. So I had to just save, sacrifice. It took me almost a year, but I got my monument sign up. So in business, you have to make a sacrifice. But I wanted to just clarify that the two previous owners, I'm very familiar with them. I passed this location for the past 20 years. Those pictorials, images, and wordings did not go up until this owner took over the business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Schwartz.
I'm sorry, but I disagree. Those dog bones were put up by the initial owner, Lori, and that was before Bars Limited LLC purchased that building. So Lori is the one who put up those dog bones.
The bones.
The bones,
Right.
yes. And it was longer than 3 years ago. I purchased the location in 2012. The Bars purchased it in 2010. And Lori is the one who put up those dog bones. I am the one who put up the paws and the wording, but the dog bones were existing.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else that here would like to speak on 2B? Any other questions? Seeing nobody else stepping forward for public comment, I'll call for a motion.
Based on the City of Smyrna sign ordinance and testimony from staff today, I recommend denial of variance request V14-039, public hearing variance request to allowing pictorial image on the front of the building and commercial wording and pictorial image on the side of the building, 0.65 acres, land lot 528-3773, South Cobb Drive.
We have a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
No.
No second.
Okay, then the motion stalls with no second. I make a motion to take 5 minutes into executive session.
Second.
Motion to go into executive session for a few minutes. Call for a vote. We'll just do it by hand because it's not on the agenda. 3-0. Okay, we'll be right back.
motion to reconvene.
Second. We have a motion to reconvene. The second, and all those in favor to reconvene. It's passed 3-0. First of all, I just wanted to explain, we just made a motion to have a short recess because I had procedural questions. I feel that I've gotten the answers to the procedural questions that I had, but just to explain it, if a motion is made in this board without a second, the motion fails, and the net result to the applicant with regard to your specific variance request, ma'am, would be that it would stand as denied. Okay. My next question, which I've had answered, I'm going to go ahead and move on. So we still have a motion for denial. I'm going to second the motion for denial. Redo the motion? Okay, so I'll call for a motion.
Make a motion based on testimony from staff and the City of Smyrna sign ordinance that variance request V14-039 be denied, that allow pictorial image on the front of the building and commercial wording and pictorial image on the side of the building, 0.65 acres, land lot 528.
And I'll second that motion. Is there any further discussion before the vote? Without discussion, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. Motion to deny passes 2-1. I would like to remind you, as the staff's already made you aware, that you do have an appeal right to the council. We encourage you to do that. Information about the notification to appeal can be obtained through our city clerk, Terry Graham. This is something you can do today after we convene. Okay.
It needs to be in writing, and you have 10 days from today to do it, but you can do it right.
Right, 10 business days from today in writing, but that's something that could be handwritten and delivered today if you so chose. Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda is 2C, public hearing for variance request V14-040, reduction of required front yard setback from 35 to 18 feet, 0.23 acre land lot 259 located at 2870 Elizabeth Street. Jacob and Jessica Bach are the applicants here. You step forward and state your name, please.
I'm Jacob Bach.
Okay, Mr. Bach, could you tell us a little bit about your variance request, please?
Yes, sir. The first variance request here is kind of due to existing structure. The home that was built on the lot that we have acquired was built in the late 30s, early 40s, when it was built with outside the existing zoning setback. So our plan to remodel the house makes it much more efficient and convenient for us to go ahead and redo the front porch that is currently there to be kind of up to par with the rest of the neighborhood. And it's kind of consequentially going to cause us to build within a setback that is zoned against it. But it's almost counterintuitive to look at it because of it's already existing.
Okay. So you want to essentially provide a significant facelift in the front of your property?
Yes, sir.
Redo the front porch, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Before we do questions, let's hear from staff. Joey.
The applicant has requested 3 variances, but we'll go through them separately. They're all apply to the remodeling of this existing structure. But the first variance is to allow reduction of the front setback from 35 feet to 18 feet for the construction of a front porch. The front porch is at the same location as the applicant is proposing to reconstruct a new front porch. So it'll lose the non-conforming quality of it when it's torn down, but they're proposing to rebuild it in the same location. This is like a one-story. I don't know what style, but it's an older home that they're proposing to do significant remodeling to. So, signage has been posted. The adjacent neighbors have been.
And have you heard any positive or negative after the posting?
Have had no comment, negative or positive.
Okay.
And we've recommended approval with 2 conditions. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevation submitted with the variance application. And 2, the applicant shall provide evidence of exemption or adherence to the tree conservation and replacement ordinance.
Mr. Bach, are you aware of these 2 conditions that go along with this recommendation for approval?
Yes, I am.
And really, just for clarification, Joey, if you could talk about for just a second, the second one, is this here the evidence of exemption or adherence to the tree conservation or replacement ordinance? Is that because the plan is to remove trees that would fall within this ordinance and then to have a plan to replace them?
No, not
not right?
Specifically, the ordinance, tree ordinance says any single-family residence that has 50% or more land disturbance must comply with the tree ordinance. So we just need to know whether the overall disturbed area will be greater than 50%, and if it is, then we'll require a tree protection and replacement plan.
See. So, Mr. Bach, you're familiar again with these 2 stipulations.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and you're willing to comply with both?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for staff or the applicant? Okay, this is a public hearing. If there's anybody here to speak for or against item 2A for this variance request, I ask that you step forward now. Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve variance request V14-040, public hearing, reduction of required front yard setback from 35 feet to 18 feet, 0.23 acres, land lot 5, 59, 2870 Elizabeth Street.
I second that motion.
Have a motion to approve. It's properly seconded. Any further discussion? If not, we'll call for a vote. Okay, sir, your variance request passed 3-0. Thank you. And I realize that you've got a couple more coming up. We have to go through this procedurally. I apologize. Okay, next item on the agenda is 2D, public hearing variance request V14-041, allow the reduction of required side setback from 10 to 3.65 feet, again at a 0.23 acre land lot 559, 2870 Elizabeth Street, applicants Jacob and Jessica Bach. And at the podium to offer testimonies, Mr. Bach, could you tell us about this side setback request?
Yeah, as I believe you guys got a site plan in your packet, and on the east side of the lot, there is what amounts to almost an L shape in the house. So our plan is to square that shape off in the remodel to maximize the amount of square footage based on the lot size, and while still maximizing the yard. The existing structure has if you can tell, if you look at, it's an obvious square, and then there's a little kick out, and that was something that was done long ago, but it again is pre-construction that is within the east setback to the left to right. So it borders Lim and Leanne on that side, and it creates a narrow alley. If we were to build within the zoning setback, we'd have to come straight off the back of the house, and we'd end up with this kind of 10-foot alley that wouldn't get as much sun, and it would kind of just be a wasted space. There's no real optimal way to use it. So our appeal for this variance is to enable us to square straight off the back of the house, creating a more structurally sound and appealing design with one roof line because the base will be square. I've spoken with Lynn and Leanne at length about it, and they were very excited about the renovations on the house altogether, and they had no problems with us building within the setback on their property side.
Okay. Questions for the applicant?
Since you're right up against the property line, roof water, gutters, all that. What's your plan on that?
Our plan is if the pitch flattens out just a hair towards the bottom, so it should be able to be maintained by gutters, and we're also, and since that area isn't really going to get much grass, we'll probably end up doing some like permeable kind of distributing surface over there, such as like a gravel grade right next to the house to eliminate it, and then out on pine straw. So I don't. The existing house, I don't think has been kicking anything over there. So I'm kind of under the notion that it will stay that way. And they have their backyard is built up quite nice, but they kind of have maybe like a 10 to 15 foot buffer, which is effectively their setback, where they don't have any real landscaping or anything. It's kind of their no zone, so to speak. So the immediate impact on the first 5 or 10 feet of their lot in a downpour, if my gutters are clogged because I've been lazy, shouldn't really affect them.
Which way is your lot slope, from front to back?
Slightly, yeah. From the street to the lot, there's about a 4 foot grade that kind of just rolls off, and then the rest of the lot is actually pretty flat. There's an old drainage ditch that runs through the back that from what I understand, the city used to maintain. So I think there's a little bit of a natural slope that way. We've never seen any really pooling or flooding of any sort. So
you're going to make a diligent effort not to push water upon your neighbor?
That's correct.
Okay.
Do you remember the language to that one stipulation? That they would put gutters and downspouts?
I can, but I don't remember if I can.
Mr. Brock, would you be comfortable, and I'm kind of moving forward, Joey, I apologize, but to the staff recommendation of approval with the same two conditions that we heard before, would you be comfortable with a third condition that addressed essentially the fact that you would be required to have proper gutters and downspouts?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
In an effort to manage watershed.
Definitely. That's a part of our plan, part of our construction plan.
So you'd be okay with that if we added it?
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Okay. Okay, anything else for the applicant? All right. We're here from Community Development. Joey? Excuse me.
Applicant is requesting a reduction of the north side setback from 10 feet to 3.6 feet for the construction of an addition to an existing house. The existing house is 3.4 feet from the side property line, and he is going to continue that building line going to the rear of the property. It's similar to the setbacks across the street at Spring Street Village. They're probably 5 feet from the property line, but just to maintain an architectural consistency to the house, we don't see a problem with that approval of that setback reduction. The property to the north is zoned R15, which has a 30-foot rear setback, so there's no conflicts with fire as far as the 10-foot separation, and I agree with the condition of downspouts and gutters to distribute water away from adjacent properties. So we recommended approval with the same conditions.
So you guys don't see an issue, just for the record, with the addition of that third condition to address the watershed?
No, we do not. I
Okay.
agree with that.
Any questions for staff? This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that wants to speak either for or against item 2E with regard to this variance request, I ask that you step forward now. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve variance request V14-041, allow reduction of required side setback from 10 feet to 3.6 feet, 0.23 acres, land lot 569, 2879, or 2870 Elizabeth Street, with the following conditions. The approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevation submitted with the variance application. The applicant shall provide evidence of exemption or adherence to the tree conservation replacement ordinance, and that the applicant will manage any stormwater runoff from the addition to not affect the adjoining property owners.
I second that motion.
We have a motion to approve. It's properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. Only got two.
That's broke.
On the floor. Okay, motion passes unanimously 3-0. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is 2E, public hearing variance request V14-042, allow the reduction of required driveway setback from 5 to 2 feet, again at 0.23 acre land lot 559, 2870 Elizabeth Street for Jacob and Jessica Bach. Mr. Bach, again, at the podium to offer testimony. Could you talk to us about this final variance request, sir?
Yeah, of course. It sounds much more illustrious to call it a motor court, but the turnaround, so to speak, coming from the garage will infringe upon the setback with the neighboring house. So our request is to just enable us to maintain a large enough motor court that will put us a little bit closer to the variances, to the zoning's comfort on that property line.
Okay. Questions for the applicant? Joey, if you would.
Applicants requested a variance to allow a reduction of the driveway setback from 5 feet to 2 feet, which is on the south side of the property. The actual driveway itself is much greater than 5 feet from the property line, but just this motor court will extend into the 5-foot setback. And they have proposed to construct that with permeable materials. So stormwater runoff will not be an issue since it'll just drain into the ground. We've analyzed the request. We've approved similar requests in the past, and we've recommended.
So there is precedent for this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I think most recently on Kathy Lane, which was a couple months ago.
Okay.
So we recommended approval with the same conditions.
Joey, what's adjacent? I guess it'd be the south. What's adjacent to this particular parcel? Or maybe the homeowner knows.
Yeah, I do. It's roughly a house of the same size of our existing home. It's about 900 square feet of a same era, late 30s, early 40s, craftsman home. These two homes are kind of the last two original small 900 square foot homes on the block. And that house is also set in its lot, kind of centered and built out of existing current zoning setbacks. But there's space between the two houses for effectively two driveways, and with maybe a combined 5-foot setback between the two. So the home is if you're staring at the house, the home that this setback affects is more to its left of the lot. So it's not right on top of one another. It's probably.
And their driveway is not right up against where your proposal is.
At the moment, the two houses actually kind of share the same paved entrance to kind of like a crushed rock, gravel parking pad for both.
So you're gonna cut that off, and then they'll have to make arrangements for a.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. The asphalt that is currently there, I think we're probably just square off, so we don't necessarily set them back because there's just one curb cut that I think when they redid the street and made Elizabeth a one-way street, I don't know, before I was there, they kind of shrunk that down a bit. So to not create any like undue stress or unnecessary expenses for them, we're going to kind of allow our one driveway entrance. It's, I guess, 60% ours and 30% theirs to enable them to still be able to get in and out.
Okay. Any other questions? This is a public hearing. If you're here to speak for or against item 2E, I ask that you step forward now. Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve variance request V14-042 to allow reduction of required driveway setback from 5 feet to 2 feet, 0.23 acres, on lot 559, 2870 Elizabeth Street.
I second that motion.
We have a motion to approve that's properly seconded. There's no further discussion. I'll call for a vote. And that one passes 3-0. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
Mm-hmm. Next item on the agenda is 2F, public hearing for a privilege license request, LIC 2014-12, for beer, wine, liquor pouring at 652 Concord Road, Crafty Hog Incorporated, doing business as the Crafty Hog, with John Gibney as the agent. Is the applicant present?
Hi, I'm Stephanie Capizzuto from the law firm of Taylor English Duma. We represent Crafty
I
Hog.
apologize. We need to get everything on record. Go ahead. Say that again, please.
Could you hear me?
Yes.
No. So my name is Stephanie Capizzuto from the law firm of Taylor English Duma, and our firm represents Crafty Hog. And with me is John Gibney, the owner.
Okay. So you're here to represent the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So is this a? I'll tell you what. Before are we going to hear from staff on this? Okay. Okay. So is this this is not a change of agent. This is a new. Is that right? I apologize for just a second. If we could hear from staff, Jim Cox.
Jim Cox, business license officer. This is a change of ownership and a new agent. It's not a new application. It's grandfathered, so all distance requirements have been met or grandfathered. So there's no changes there. Simply a change of ownership and a new agent.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay, Ms. Capizzuto, your client has gone through obviously the proper request for this change of agent license, and can you confirm that your client has received the proper education, training, certification required to have this?
He did. He received the training. It's like TIRV RAS training back in August.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about, and maybe this would be to the applicant either way, can you just tell us a little bit about your business?
Sure. It's
in the microphone, please.
My name is John Gibney. I am formerly from Zuka, so I am familiar with the neighborhood.
Okay.
Crafty Hog is going to be craft spirits and barbecue, traditional barbecue in the front. We will have a back room that has chef-driven, like, tapas. But we are putting games outside, which will make it more family-friendly. So horseshoes, bocce ball, cornhole, and just trying to enhance the family experience.
Okay. And have you ever been the registered agent or license holder for a business for this type of permit?
I have. Not here in Smyrna, but in Atlanta. I've been 17 years.
Okay, so for 17 years. Can you talk to us a little bit about some practices, and whoever you want to answer this, practices or procedures, policies that you either have or intend to have that would prevent the sale of alcohol to minors?
Sure. Currently we have Training Institute. Every year, annually, we update their license or permit that we have. It's, that's not the law. We recommend they do it. And monthly, they get challenged by, their staff to protect us from them serving to underage.
Okay. What about any point of sale type? Just kind of going through this. If a server has an order for alcohol, when that's rang up at the point of sale, is there any requirement for to enter a date of birth, anything like that?
Everyone has to be ID'd. And probably in downtown we do it at 40 years old, but here it's everyone in Smyrna currently. That's what we do.
Okay. So you encourage your staff or mandate
Absolutely.
that your staff
Yeah,
ID everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? And for the record, the applicant did have to submit through the Smyrna Police Department through the application process have to submit through a criminal background investigation, and they revealed no information that would preclude the applicant from obtaining this privilege license. This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that would like to speak for or against item 2F, I ask that you step forward now. Seeing none,
I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead with the question.
You're not open yet, correct?
No.
Are all your employees, other than I guess your cook staff, but are all your employees, will they be have permits to serve?
Yes, absolutely. I actually did speak to Marley yesterday about that.
Okay.
And are you aware, and I don't know, we've got the chief of police here with us, but are you aware that the Smyrna Police Department, as well as the entire city of Smyrna, takes the responsible sale of alcohol very seriously, to the point that the Smyrna Police Department on a pretty regular basis do conduct undercover operations in which they try to enforce the adherence to the proper sale of alcohol with regard to minors. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm an ex-police officer too, so.
Okay. So you get it then, yeah.
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Deb, but if during these operations, if they do find somebody that's selling alcohol to a minor, that person is arrested. The server is arrested. Is that correct?
Typically, no. We issue a citation.
A citation.
The state is also notified, and it's really almost. Well, it's not double jeopardy, but the fine, what they would get from the city of Smyrna, is significantly less than what they would get from the state.
Right. And also in that scenario, the registered agent for the business has to come back before this license and variance board in the event that were to happen, and in which this board would weigh whether or not that business should continue to have that privilege license. So, and this is something that we tell everybody, because it is true. We as every other county and city in the state, take the responsible sale of alcohol seriously. Okay. Any other questions? And I saw no one here to speak for or against, so I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve license 2014-12, beer and wine, liquor and pouring, 652 Concord Road, Crafty Hog, doing business as the Crafty Hog, with John Gibney as the agent.
I second that motion.
We have a motion to approve that's properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. Okay, that motion passed unanimously, 3-0. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing, privilege license request, LIC 20014-13, beer, wine, and liquor pouring for 2500 South Cobb Drive, El Coyote, Smyrna, LLC, doing business as El Coyote, Smyrna, with Patrick Sean Griffin as the agent.
Yes, sir. Patrick Griffin.
Okay. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How you doing?
Tell us a little bit about your business.
Restaurant bar that's the same business it essentially was before, just a change of ownership.
Change of ownership, which requires this change of agent.
Right.
Okay. And have you ever held this? Have you ever been a registered agent at any other location?
Not for this type of business. I've been in the restaurant industry in a prior career for about 15 years.
Okay. And are you the owner of
Yes.
the business? How long have you owned this business now?
Just recently, just months.
Okay. Can you talk to us a little bit, same types of questions? Can you tell us some policies, procedures, practices that you may have in place, training to ensure the responsible sale of alcohol at your facility?
Yes, particularly when it's busy on the weekends. I've already met with Captain Harvey and Black at the police department. We worked out a security plan so they could have an officer there, particularly from 11:30 until closing, that work in conjunction with the security we have, and everybody's ID'd at the door. So they can't even get in the business without being ID'd. If it's a time when, if it's before that, they're ID'd at the door, but they're also ID'd inside as well. So at the point of sale and at the point of entry. Typically, most of the time, it'll always be they can't even get in without being ID'd. Can't even get through the door.
So is it your practice that, and this is just for clarification, you said you ID people when they come in the door, they can't even get in, but is it also, are they also ID'd at point of sale?
That's correct. If there's any question whatsoever, even if it's during a time when that, if somebody, even appears to be underage, anything, they are ID'd a second time. And plus, we have security inside and outside.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
I mean, what type of menu do you?
Basically, bar food, finger food, sandwiches, wings, stuff of that type.
What are the hours of operation?
From 10 to 4 and 10 to 3 on Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Is that 10 p.m. to 4 a.m.?
Yes, sir. And during Monday through Thursday, we're not even open.
Are you? I mean, you said you're the owner. Are you on the premises
all the time?
All the time.
All the time.
Are you currently open?
Yeah, we just did.
Okay.
We just got our business license not too long ago.
Are all your servers? Do you require all your servers to be permitted for the sale?
Yes, sir.
Or serving, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. And I actually had one question. Maybe the chief can help me. When I had the Ross training, they said that I think in Cobb County, even security is required to have that license. Is that accurate? That's evidently one of their stipulations.
I'm not familiar with Cobb County's regulations.
Okay. But the reason for my question is if they are, we'll have them too. So not only everybody inside, but even people outside, even if they're doing something as simple as checking IDs or whatever.
And maybe to help you further in the research of that question, maybe Jim Cox might be able to obtain the answer
okay.
one way or the other. Okay.
One other question: are you aware or have you been made aware that there's a water leak behind your business?
Yes, very very much so. And apparently that water leak was there for I want to say a year or two prior. Safeway Group that owns the building is on top of it. They've had about 8 estimates already. It's going to end up, they're going to have to, the new development of the houses in the back. I don't know if it's been because of all the trucks coming through, but it's actually leaking from the meter the entire way into the building. So they figured out they're going to have to replace the entire line.
Okay.
We just put a brand new grease trap, so we know from the building to the short distance to that we're good. Apparently, that's the old line from there on out. It's about 5 leaks.
Okay.
But they're on top of it.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, this is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that'd like to speak for or against item 2G, I ask that you step forward now. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve license 2014-13, beer, wine, and liquor pouring, 2500 South Cobb Drive, El Coyote, Smyrna, LLC, doing business as El Coyote, Smyrna, with Patrick Sean Griffin as the agent.
I second that motion.
We have a motion to approve this properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. And the motion passes unanimously, 3-0. Thank you.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I will. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is 2H. Item number 2014-366, appeal of the denial of application for alcohol service permit for Cassandra Alexis Toles. Okay, I ask that you please step forward, but I'll open the podium first to Jeffrey Tucker.
Thank you, Chief. Let's have the applicant come up, and Ms. Gerber, please. Since we're going to take some factual testimony from both of you, would you both please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give in this matter should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, if the applicant would sit down for just a minute, I'm going to ask a couple of questions of Ms. Gerber. Would you state your name for the record, please?
Marla Gerber.
And you're an employee of the city of Smyrna?
Yes, I am.
With what part of the city?
The police department, the permits office.
In the permits office, what do you do there with respect to the issuance of server permits for alcohol?
I conduct background investigations.
And so when somebody makes an application of this type, they come in, they fill out an application, and then they fill out certain information, and then in writing they authorize you to run a criminal background check.
Correct.
Is that correct? So within the past month or so, have you run a criminal background check on applicant Cassandra Alexis Toles?
Yes, I have.
And what, if anything, did the criminal background check show when you ran her?
That she had some pending charges.
So
from the Noonan Police Department from September of this year, 2014.
So September, not to testify for you, but on or about September the 6th, 2014, this applicant, the criminal background check shows, was arrested for driving under the influence of drugs and for possession of some amount of marijuana. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And your investigation did not show, as one would expect because this was recent, did not show any disposition of these charges through the court system. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's all for me. Thank you. So, Ms. Toles, would you step up here, please? And I'm going to ask you to, anything you say, to speak clearly into this microphone so that it comes across on the record correctly. I guess the first thing for me to ask is anything that Marla Gerber from our police department just said inaccurate or something you would like to supplement or correct in any way? And speak clearly into that, please.
I would like to say that the item in question that was found in my car was not a possession of marijuana. It was a paraphernalia piece, and the under the influence charge I received was not in regards to alcohol. It was a blood test that was given to me on the spot to prove that there was THC in my system.
But nonetheless, it's not incorrect that you were arrested in Noonan in September for this. And do you have any pending criminal charge against you?
Other than those charges, I do.
No. Do you have any pending criminal charge against you?
Yes.
Speak clearly,
yes.
So the answer is yes. Do you recognize? Is this your signature on this form?
Yes, sir.
What's the date that it states on here?
October 20th, 2014.
And would you read just that line, please, that ends with a question mark?
Have you been arrested or convicted of a crime within the last 5 years?
And what did you indicate there?
I marked no.
And would you read the very first sentence to the period there after certified section on this application?
I hereby certify that the information I am filling out to be true, correct, and complete to the best of my known knowledge and belief.
All right. And so you indicated on this application that you had not been arrested for any crime within the last 5 years on the date, the October the 20th, whereas in fact you had been arrested about 6 weeks prior to that. Is that correct? So when you filled this out, you knew at that time that you had been arrested within the last 5 years. Is that correct? Speak up clearly for the...
Yes.
All right. And do you want to offer the board any kind of explanation of why you didn't disclose that here on your application when you were at the same time consenting to have your criminal background run?
No. I have nothing to say in regards to it other than the fact that I had not been convicted yet, so I'm still working on getting these charges dropped for me.
But at the time you indicated this, you did read it to the extent that it says it asks you specifically if you've been arrested within the last 5 years.
Yes.
And so your answer, when you answered no, that was not a true response. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any further questions for the applicant. Anything from the board? Well, here's our procedure. We'll let the board ask you whatever they want, and then just to be thoroughly fair, if there's anything else you want to say to the board, you have an opportunity to say it.
Yeah, and you know,
if you'll step up so that you speak clearly into that.
Yeah. Well, I'll open it to questions in just a second, but you understand, I hope, the importance of truthful and honest answers, especially with regard to this type of application, and the fact that the question didn't say, have you been convicted? The question clearly states, have you been arrested? And I think, given, I don't want to rehash it, I mean, you just testified that was not a correct statement. And in that situation, it kind of ties everybody's hands, regardless if we believe that you're a great person or we really like you or, that type of thing, hypothetically. And that's just a personal statement. I don't know, how we're going to vote on this yet. But does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
You're asking for an alcohol server's permit for where?
For Varner's restaurant, I've been at for maybe a month now. They've been very understanding to my situation, and I've also just recently moved up to Marietta, so it's important that I am able to obtain this job here. Not only because of the fact that I'd like to sustain my new living situation, but because I'm very, very fond of my managers and the people I work with, and it's rare to find an opportunity like this that's just kind of fallen upon me, and I've seen it as more of a fresh start. I don't know, they're a good support group for me. I'm trying to walk away from a lot of things and start a new leaf. I understand it's unlawful to lie, and I'm very apologetic of that, but it would be great if you could take my story into consideration, possibly.
How long have you worked there?
I'd say about a month, close to a month, maybe, not quite. I can't say the exact date that I started working there because I don't remember it off the top of my head. But
so were you working there prior to this incident?
No, I just, that incident caused me to lose the job that I had in Noonan, and I also almost lost my house and my car, and I was offered a place at this restaurant, and they welcomed me with open arms just about a month after that.
What was your previous job?
I worked at a conference center as a senior event operator. I also was a voice talent operator.
What was the name of the business?
Intercall.
What conference center?
A global conference center in Noonan called Intercall. We did conferences for big companies like Oracle and Estee Lauder and things of that sort.
So you lost that job because of this incident?
Yes, the charges were brought to the attention of my HR, and due to the circumstances of the charges, they had to suspend me until they could be dropped or ruled annulled. And since my court date wasn't until December, I was forced to find another place of employment, and I was given the opportunity at Varner's through a mutual friend.
That's all I got.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion for executive session.
Second.
All those in favor? 3-0. Okay. We'll be back.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to reconvene.
Second.
All those in favor? Reconvene 3-0. Okay, sure.
I did.
Okay, Ms. Tolles, could you please step back up to the podium? Do you have anything else to add before I entertain a motion?
I'm a very hardworking individual, and I try to climb the ladder in every aspect of my life. And I understand that certain things are not okay, and that's my mission, to overcome obstacles. I would very much appreciate your consideration in this appeal.
Okay, well, either way, regardless of how it goes, we commend you for your intent to, take the right path, whatever that means, and we certainly encourage you to continue to do that either way. Okay? Any other comments, questions? All right, with none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to deny the appeal of application for alcohol service permit based on false information given by the applicant on the service permit application and pending charges for Crescenda Alexis Tolles.
I second that motion.
We have a motion to deny, properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. Motion to deny passes unanimously. You will have, you do have an additional appeal right to the mayor and council. That appeal has to be given to the city clerk in writing within 10 business days. And you can do that before you leave if you'd like to today.
I have to write two new letters.
You can get with the city clerk. I think it's as simple as I would like to appeal to the mayor and council, something like that. Okay? And we wish you luck. Next item on the agenda is 2I, 2014-368, appeal of the denial of alcohol, the denial of application for a taxi permit for Justo Rodriguez.
All right. Mr. Rodriguez, if you could step up here. We'll need to hear from Marla, so she's already sworn, so I'll swear Mr. Rodriguez. I think you all know Simone Cardenas from our city staff. He's going to assist with some translation matters this morning.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, so if you'll raise your right hand.
If I may explain to him what is going on.
Oh, sure.
Please.
Yeah, Simone, please do.
Okay, mira, esta es lo que se está pidiendo aquí es que te están negando la para los permisos de taxi, ¿ok? Esta es tu también esa Ok, espera un momento, déjame explicarte, ¿ok? Entonces, esto tiene un proceso como se ve. ¿Ok?
All right, and I think just so that we have a clear record of this, whatever I say, I'll say here into the microphone. We'll let Simone translate it for Mr. Rodriguez. Then Mr. Rodriguez needs to speak into the microphone his answer, and then Simone can speak in his translation.
Okay, como esto va a trabajar es, él va a hacer la petición a que se niegue, ellos van a oírla, yo te la voy a traducir a ti. Todo lo que tú vayas a decir, tú lo tienes que decir en el micrófono, pero tú tienes que hablar, ok, yo voy a... Okay?
Está bien.
That is fine, thank you.
Okay. Look, so if you'll have a seat here for just a moment, please.
Does he need to be sworn?
Oh, I neglected to do that. I thought I got distracted. If you'll stand back up. If you'll raise your right hand. Ms. Gerber's already been sworn, so you don't have to be sworn again. Simone, you don't have to be sworn because you're not testifying. You are just speaking. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you'll give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right. Okay. Thank you. So if he can have a seat for just a second. All right, if you'll, Marla, if you'll step back up, you're already sworn today, and we've already heard part of what you do there at the police department. A lot of times when you come here before the board, you're talking about people who are applying for alcohol server permits, but as part of your responsibility there, you also run the same kind of check for people who are applying to be taxi drivers here in the city. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so they fill out a similar sort of application and then authorize you to run a criminal background check on them, right?
Correct.
And the reason for that is the city code of ordinances excludes people with certain types of criminal convictions from receiving taxi permits for the city. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so within the past month or two, have you run the criminal background check on Justo Bodilio Rodriguez?
Yes.
And when you ran that, what if anything did that disclose?
That there was a DUI charge. It was also on his driver's history, or it was a conviction on 5/12/14.
Right. So he had been charged back December of last year with driving under the influence here in Cobb County. Is that correct?
Correct.
And your investigation showed he pled guilty to that charge in May of this year. Is that correct? And received a sentence of basically a year's probation, 11 months, 29 days probation.
Correct.
All right. And so that's still running as of right now. That's correct, right?
Correct.
But just to clarify the situation, because this is different than what we've heard earlier today, Mr. Rodriguez accurately disclosed this matter on his application. Is that correct?
Correct.
So when he was asked, have you had anything like this, he accurately said yes, and he even put the correct dates on it. Is that right?
Correct.
And before we get too far, and I'm sorry to interrupt, can you clarify for the record when you mentioned that he received 1 year's probation? Did that begin? Do you have the information as to when his probation began?
I think the conviction was on 5/12 of 14, so it would have been from there, correct?
It would have been no earlier than May 12, 2014.
Okay.
And was for 11 months, 29 days.
Okay.
So whatever date, and it's very possible it started that day, but even if it started at some later time, we're still in the middle of that period.
Okay.
Right. Okay. I don't have anything more from Ms. Gerber.
I do. I have a question.
Wait, hang on. Let's have
Through
Mr. Stokes.
the background MVR, I mean, does Mr. Rodriguez still have? Does he have a current valid driver's license?
Yes, according to the MVR, dated September 20. Oh no, wait, I'm sorry. What is the date on this?
The results are valid through September 24th, 2014. Is that correct?
That's when he got it done, and we say it's good for 30 days. And at that time, his license was current.
Okay.
It was valid.
All right. So he's on probation for this, but does not have a suspended or canceled driver's license. Is that correct? Yes. That's his non-commercial license. So.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And so I don't have anything more. Is there anything more from the board?
Not from Ms. Gerber.
All right. Simone, would you explain to Mr. Rodriguez if there's anything that he wants to ask Marla, he is able to do that as well.
Ok, señor Rodríguez, el señor abogado quiere saber si usted tiene algo que pedir o algo que decirle al panel de personas. Ya hable aquí, por favor.
If you speak in there, and then Simone can speak in with the English translation.
Mi único problema es que no puedo trabajar.
I have a problem because I cannot work. That's the only type of work that I can do.
¿Desde que pasó eso?
Since
No
that happens,
más.
I haven't been able to work since I got the DUI.
Y fui a hacer todas las pruebas que me hicieron.
And I went and did all the tests that the police request for me to do.
Y me suspendieron la licencia por 120 días, me la volvieron a dar.
They gave me a suspended license for 120 days, but I already got it back.
Y entonces mi problema es de que yo no puedo hacer otro trabajo.
My problem is that I cannot do any other type of work.
Ya ve que tengo 4 niños.
I have 4 kids,
Y por eso ando aquí.
and that's the reason why I'm here.
Y yo sé que lo que me pasó es mal.
And I know that what I did was wrong,
Nunca me había pasado esto.
and that never happens to me before.
Y no estaba borracho tampoco.
And I wasn't drunk at all.
Sí, es cierto, me había tomado un trago que el policía me sintió el alcohol.
Yes, it's
Y ese
true that
fue
I
lo que
was
me mató.
that I have some drinks, but I wasn't.
Pero yo
I
no
wasn't
tomo.
drinking. The police department. I explained that to the police department.
Uno.
I don't drink.
Porque estoy enfermo de diálisis.
One of the reasons why I don't drink is because
Si ya me
I'm
ve mi
sick.
pierna que está pegada de la
I'm
enfermedad.
on dialysis, and if you can notice that on my leg.
El policía me puso a hacer la prueba de esas 4.
And the police officer tried to ask me to do that test where I have to walk, and I was telling him that I couldn't do it because I cannot walk very well.
Entonces él siempre me sube y yo dice, hazlo, hazlo.
And the police officer was telling me, do it, and I was telling him I cannot.
Pero yo traté de hacerlo.
And I even tried to do it so he can see what I was trying to do.
Cuando yo me balanceé, porque entonces la verdad no.
And that's the reason why I lost my balance, because I cannot walk very well.
Trabaja bien.
Yeah, my foot doesn't work very well.
Pero eso es de la misma enfermedad.
But that's because I'm sick.
Pero mi doctor me ha dicho que yo puedo trabajar.
But my doctor told me that I could work.
Y yo le dije a él que yo podía manejar. Me dice, solo uno puede hacerme.
And I asked the police officer to let me do it because that's the type of work that I can do. I can drive.
Yo he aprendido la lección ya.
Believe me, I learned my lesson.
En un año que me ha pasado esto.
In the last year that this happens to me,
he aprendido mucho.
I learned quite a lot.
Me enseñaron mucho en la escuelita que me mandaron.
I learned a lot on the DUI school.
Y aprendí mucho de eso.
And I learned a lot from there.
Ya ve que uno le pone fotos de alcohol y droga y todo ahí.
You know that they show you pictures of accidents that happens with for people to drink, and I promised them.
Ya tengo 8 años con esta enfermedad, no bebo, no tomo.
I've been sick for 8 years and I don't drink.
Eso que me pasó, pues,
and that's what happened.
Lo llevo en la mente siempre.
And I always will remember that.
Lo voy a tener
and I'm always going to have it with me.
Y créame que no lo voy a volver a quedar mal.
And believe me, I will never do it again.
Ya ves que tengo 4 niños chiquitos.
I do have 4 kids, little kids.
Por ello estoy aquí.
And that's the reason why I'm here.
Dando mi cara y siempre la voy a dar siempre.
I always will show my face, and I will always do that.
Cualquier cosa que me pase en la calle, yo siempre voy a dar mi cara, no me voy a oír porque no me voy.
Anything that happens or anything that I do on the street, I will always show my face because I'm an honest person.
Yo llegué en el 83 a este país y
I've been here since 1983, and this is the first time.
Nunca me había pasado una
never have any problems before until now.
Y créame que estoy arrepentido.
And believe me, I apologize for this.
No tengo más que decirle, señor juez.
That's all that I have to say, Mr. Panel people.
Okay, let me ask Mr. Rodriguez just to clarify something he said. All right, so your license was suspended for 120 days. But it's reinstated and you have it back now.
Pero se la arreglaron y ya la tiene.
Ya la tengo. Pagué $200 para que me la arreglaran.
I did. I paid $200 so it could be restated.
Okay. I don't have any more questions for Mr. Rodriguez.
Él no tiene más preguntas para usted.
El juez me suspendió todos los cargos. Eso es lo que yo traigo aquí en los papelitos.
The judge suspended all the charges against me. These are the papers that I have here with me.
Esa fue la corte que yo tuve, la última
and
corte.
That's the resolution for the last court that I went to.
Y el juez me suspendió todo, me dijo, vete.
The judge suspended everything and told me that I could go. Due to the fact.
Okay, I wish we had this in front of us beforehand. I will formally tender this to the board as evidence, but this is an order signed by Judge Toby Progers on the 19th of September, basically closing out Mr. Rodriguez's file due to his medical condition, releasing him from all further community service and fees to be paid, and terminating his probation. So as of right now, the State Court of Cobb County considers this a concluded matter. He has it appears he has a valid driver's license and is not on probation. He did plead guilty to what he pled guilty to, but he has completed his sentence. Okay. Yeah. It takes a while for this stuff to be updated, but this is a filed, what looks to me like a filed original order signed by Judge Progers.
And I know this is an obvious statement, but we're going to make copies of that and enter that into the final record.
Okay.
Right,
Quiere que
yeah,
esos
where-
récords se suman a los récords que usted ya tiene en el papel.
Right.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
¿Tiene alguna pregunta? El chief de policía va a tener una pregunta.
Did I understand you to say that you had only had 2 drinks?
Señor, él entendió que usted nada más había tenido 2 tragos.
No, un trago nomás.
No, just one.
No, ni tampoco me tomé la botella, un traguito chiquitico así.
No, I just have a little drink.
Solo
That's
por
all.
test nomás que le di a la boca.
I just
3 bloques, 4 bloques cuando me pasó eso con el
and I
policía.
drove about and I drove about 4 blocks, and that's where the police officer stopped me.
Okay, what type, if he did take a state-administered chemical test, what type did he take?
¿Usted le tomaron algún examen de sangre o algún examen químico? Y si le tomaron alguno, ¿cuál fue?
El de sangre.
They took my blood test.
And what was the results of that?
¿Cuáles fueron los resultados de eso?
Es que no tenía alcohol, no tenía nada.
I didn't have any alcohol. I don't
Y
know.
entonces el policía supuestamente que tenía que ir a corte allá en Marietta.
The police
no se
officer,
presentó.
the police officer supposedly have to go to court, and he didn't show up in court. So I don't know how much was it.
El juez dijo que por qué me habían hecho eso si yo
The judge also said that
No
why
me había
did they do
encontrado
that
nada.
if they because they didn't find anything on my blood.
Entonces lo único que me hizo la prueba fue el policía de los 4 pasos.
The only
quiere
proof
soplar el pitillo ese.
that they have against me was the walking
Entonces,
and
como
4
él-
steps
como-
and to blow into the breathalyzer.
Como él me sintió el olor,
But the police officer felt
La
the smell from my mouth.
entonces el juez dijo, este está borracho.
That's the reason why he
Y eso
assumed
fue
that I
lo
was
que me
drunk,
dañó más.
and that's the reason why.
Just to be clear, though, you did plead guilty to driving under the influence of
Para
alcohol.
asegurarnos, usted se declaró culpable al
Claro,
cargo de manejar embriagado, ¿verdad?
al último yo le dije, está bien.
Yes, at the last,
Pero
I didn't
juez,
have any
yo-
at the last I didn't have any choice, and I pled guilty to the
Y yo
charges.
puse un abogado y el abogado me dijo, ¿sabes qué? Para que se termine eso, date culpable.
And I hired an attorney, and the attorney recommended for me to plead guilty to the charges.
Él no hizo nada el abogado.
The attorney didn't do anything.
El juez me dio una mano y me dijo, te voy a
The judge actually helped me and closed my probation.
Pero a todos los provechos yo fui.
I went to all the probations.
todos.
I went to all the
Y a la
probations,
escuelita,
and also went to the
tanto,
school,
padre,
and I
tanto,
pay all my fines.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions, Chief? Was there any other testimony that you wanted to talk about, Mr. Tucker?
I don't have anything further, Chief.
El señor dice que no tiene más nada que decir.
Okay. Could you ask him if there's anything else that he would like to offer that he hasn't already offered?
¿Usted tiene algo que decir que no haya dicho para el panel?
No, nomás eso.
No, I already say
Lo que
everything.
pasa es que me siento así porque yo vengo saliendo de diálisis ahorita.
Yes, I don't feel very well because I have to go to dialysis.
No, vengo
today.
saliendo
Oh,
ahora.
I just come in from a dialysis process.
Okay, I'll Scott, did you have anything?
No.
Okay, saw you move. I'll make a motion if we enter into executive session just for a minute.
Okay, ellos van a ir a discutir el caso dentro de por unos minutos.
Hand vote is 3-0 to enter into executive.
If you'll, I'm going to borrow this for just a minute and copy it, and then I'll give it back to you.
Él va a sacar una copia.
Okay.
Y me quedó así de una operación corazón.
¿Dónde, aquí o
Aquí. ¿De qué es eso? Sacaron 2 venas de ahí.
Se la pusieron al corazón.
Y entonces me quedado dormido. Honduras.
September, wasn't it, that was signed?
Ya digo que como era...
Yeah, because I ran it on 10/10. She signed that on September.
¿Dónde le dieron usted ese ticket?
Ahí en COP, como era diciembre y eso.
Pero, ¿en qué parte? ¿En qué ciudad?
En Copa, ya cerca de mi casa, yo vivo en Marietta.
That was County Police?
Yeah, she needs to check
Sí,
with the
Marietta.
court and make sure
Usted
that
tiene que
disposition's on
tiene
there.
que corte hablar con lo que se llama que ese papel aparecía el abogado.
Porque entonces eso me lo dieron ahorita cuando terminé julio, agosto, septiembre.
Hace 4 meses. Eso debiera ya estar en...
Como no sé cómo qué hacer, pues yo hasta ahora, desde entonces, trabajando y a ver con mis niños. Y no puedo hacer trabajar en construcción como lo hacía antes.
No entiendo.
Por eso después a taxiar. No es mucho lo que se gana, pero por lo menos para sacar para los gastos.
Sí, lo entiendo. Por favor, si se para un momentico, ¿ok?
Okay, so I hit motion to reconvene. Okay. I'll motion to reconvene.
Ok, ya ellos hicieron una moción.
Second.
Ya
Have a
regresaron.
motion that's properly second to reconvene. All those in favor?
Ellos están
Record
regresando.
show the vote. Oh, we got it on the screen. Motion to reconvene passes 3-0. Okay. Are there any further questions from the board to the applicant?
Pregunta si tiene ellos tienen alguna pregunta para usted. Ellos dijeron que no.
Okay. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Él está haciendo para decir la moción, que es lo que decir, van a tomar la decisión.
Based on the testimony and
Basado en el testimonio
in light of the additional
Y basado en la nueva
evidence
información que usted
supplied
recibió
by the applicant,
por la aplicación.
make a motion to approve the appeal of the denial of application for the taxi permit for Usto Rodriguez.
Apelando y diciendo que sí lo quiere
I second
aprobar.
that motion.
Y
We have a
él
motion to approve. Is properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a
aprobaron
vote.
su permiso.
Motion to approve passes unanimously 3-0.
Ok, así que fue aprobado totalmente 3-0. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez.
Muchas gracias, señor Rodríguez.
Okay.
Gracias.
Okay.
Thank you.
Last item on the agenda is 3A, the approval of the minutes.
Ok, ya terminó. No.
2014-367, approval of License and Variance Board minutes for October the 8th of 2014. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion for item 2014-367, approval of license and variance board for October 8, 2014 meeting minutes be approved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve is properly seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. Motion to approve passes unanimously 3-0, and I'll declare this meeting adjourned.
Well, I'm going to make a copy of this for our file.
For Terry?
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Thank you.
I'll be back in just a second. Chief, can I talk to you for just a second before you get out of here?
Ok, así que felicitaciones. Thank you. Ok, ya usted se puede ir.